Welcome to Truth Sentinel, watching over the truth in the news. Glad to join you, everyone. I'm joined again with Seth. I always get joined by or with Seth. Doesn't really matter. Welcome, Seth.
How you doing, Scott?
Not too bad. We've had a little break. I think I did. Maybe I even had COVID. I'm not even joking. I had a killer headache that lasted like 3 days. Maybe I've got COVID antibodies. Who knows? Maybe I'll go and I hope so,
because I have COVID.
Yeah. So I'll go and get an antibody check at some point. Just while we're on that, though, have you noticed that no one's talking about the fact that you might not need a vaccine because you might have already had COVID? Nobody cares whether you've already had the disease.
What about the variants, Scott? Have you heard after the Delta variant, there's the Lambda variant. That's going to be the next big one. But then what about, you've also got the Gamma variant. Come on. At this point, I'm just making shit up. But who knows? Eventually,
I think they're making shit up, Seth.
Well, yeah, right? Are we eventually going to get to the Zulu variant as we get through the entire fucking like military codification of like terms and stuff like that? Are we eventually going to get past this and get down into like the Kilo variant, the Foxtrot variant? We're going to have the Lambda variant. We're going to have the fucking, it's cheesy. Can we get to the Omega variant and be fucking finished with this already?
Right. One thing I've noticed about these variants is whenever they appear, and it's usually on the BBC where I see it first, it always goes, there's no evidence that it's any more dangerous or transmissible, and then it never actually goes back to that point. It just says that at the beginning, and there's still no evidence. There's no evidence that any of these variants exist, but there's certainly no evidence that they are any more dangerous or more transmissible. Nothing. Nobody's asking for it. No journalists are asking for it.
Well, with a basic, as we've discussed before, that it's a diagnostic test. It's not a diagnostic test. The creator of the PCR test, Kerry Mullis, had already said it's not a diagnostic test. It was not supposed to be used as such, right? Especially not at the levels that they're using it at, because we're talking a level of magnification, or what is it? They call it a cellular amplification that is so ridiculous you could get things like, as we've shown before, foreign substances such as paint or fruit or whatever to register as, right there. Sure is.
I thought, seeing as you just mentioned that, let's just play a little bit of Kerry Mullis talking about this. I'm going to play just a couple of minutes. Okay, let's start off the show with the guy who invented the PCR test. Let's see what he's got to say about it. Okay, here we go.
What is it? What is it about humanity?
Let me just check everyone can hear that first. I'm going to. Did everyone hear that when I played that couple of?
Turn it up just a little bit louder.
Okay, I'll see if I can get that louder for everyone. Just a moment. Let's try again.
Rushes to tell the public that.
What is it? What is it about humanity that wants to go to all the details and stuff and listen? You know, these guys like Fauci get up there and start talking. You know, he doesn't know anything really about anything, and I'd say that to his face. Nothing. The man thinks you can take a blood sample and stick it in an electron microscope, and if it's got a virus in there, you'll know it. Those guys have got an agenda, which is not what we would like them to have, being that we pay for them to take care of our health in some way.
And a bit more of that, just a moment. Just a little bit more later.
PCR to estimate all these supposed free viral RNAs that may or may not be there.
I think misuse PCR is not quite. I don't think you can misuse PCR. No, the results, the interpretation of it. See, if you can say, if they could find this virus in you at all. And with PCR, if you do it well, you can find almost anything in anybody. It starts making you believe in the sort of Buddhist notion that everything is contained in everything else, right? I mean, because if you can amplify one single molecule up to something that you can really measure, which PCR can do, then there's just very few molecules that you don't have at least one single one of them in your body, okay? So that could be thought of as a misuse of it, just to claim that it's meaningful. It is. No, there's very little of what they call HIV, and what's been brought out here by Phil Pott and Isai already. The measurement for it is not exact at all. It's not as good as our measurement for things like apples. An apple is an apple. You know, you can get something that's kind of like, if you got enough things that look kind of like an apple and you stick them all together, you might think it is an apple. But and HIV is like that. Those tests are all based on things that are invisible, and the results are inferred in a sense. PCR is separate from that. It's just a process that's used to make a whole lot of something out of something. That's what
Also,
it is. But it's not. It doesn't tell you that you're sick, and it doesn't tell you that the thing you ended up with really was going to hurt you or anything like that.
So there you go.
Wow.
Basically, what he's saying is if you turn up the sensitivity of the PCR test, you can find literally anything, but it doesn't mean that you're sick or you've even got a substantial amount of that thing. And that's what they did at the beginning. And it's been shown that. I think even the CDC came out last week and admitted that it's not a reliable test for COVID-19.
It's almost like they knew that. It's almost like they took this guy's patented
Well,
invention, and he's a Nobel laureate, correct, or a Nobel Prize winner.
Yep, and
Is
he
not for making the PCR test, which he made it. He knows how to use it, and he says it's not a diagnostic tool in that sense. It's not at all something that you're going to be able to use to say, "Oh, you have this," because what does that mean at that level? Because if you were to take that in context with every other molecule in your body that's being amplified with this and put that mathematically in context for somebody, it would be fucking hilarious. And they would look at you like your goddamn egg-shaped head if you said that to him and told him to take it seriously. Because we're talking about like, oh my God, there's X parts per million of the bad thing. But then also there's hundreds of thousands of parts per million of every other normal thing. Right. And it's just stuff that nobody would really consider because most people aren't scientifically literate in the first place. I mean, hell, let's be completely honest. Most news readers, most politicians, most fucking scientists or self-proclaimed scientists such as Bill Nye, the science guy, or Neil deGrasse Tyson or whoever the hell are not really scientists either. They're more just talking heads that take for granted what other people say and then just repeat it over and over and over again without the slightest bit of skepticism. Because, of course, that's how you're supposed to be now. The war on misinformation, as it were there, Scott. I'm sure we'll get into that a little bit later as well.
I guess it's pretty convenient. Carrie's Mullis died just before the pandemic, right? Because he was really not a fan of Fauci there, was he?
Right, proper convenient, huh? Just interesting. I wouldn't want to be like a conspiracy theorist or anything. And after all, the inventor of mRNA technology has also said that children should not be subject to it. Yet, the media is quiet, interesting, and continues to push the idea that all the way down to tiny infants, babies even, must be vaccinated with the jabby there. I find that very interesting as well, because of course we don't have time to ask questions. We don't have time to be skeptical. We don't have time to do research or experiment. That was all already done. Just take it. Just take it. Yeah, okay. Because that doesn't at all make me far more hesitant than I was before, right? Because it's just think about it. What are they doing? I almost feel like they know exactly what they're doing with this and are trying to create the divide further within society, because they know that they're doubling down on the idea that eventually somebody that knows what they're up to is going to crack, snap, go ape shit, and probably fucking shoot somebody, because there's reaching this point where you put somebody's back against a wall and then continue to fucking get closer and closer and closer and closer, and then they snap. Period. I mean, the most dangerous animal is a wild animal that's cornered. Like, what the fuck are these people doing? They know exactly what they're doing, and it feels right there. Here we go.
It's not the animals that are dangerous, Seth. Flatulence. COVID could be spread through flatulence, says Yahoo News. Says ministers. So increase the ventilation, slow the spread of COVID.
Also, who's the author of that article there, Scott? Just Christopher Hope. Interesting name.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It does seem that everything causes COVID, and everything is a symptom of COVID these days.
That's why they're doing the anal swabs, Scott. It's because it could be spread through flatulence. And it's not at all like they're trying to just be as invasive as possible and show you that as government, they can dominate you in whatever way that they want. And the fact that most people would just, well, literally bend over and take it.
They would. And I thought this might be a good time to show a little, I know you've seen this little comedy skit that I sent you the other day, Seth. I thought we could show this just to explain to anyone who might be listening who doesn't get why people are suspicious of the COVID vaccine. Here's a kind of little parody, which I might just show now. Let's see if I can get this working. I'll get the volume up. This is going to take a couple of minutes, everyone. It's just a bit of light relief. Have a watch, see what you think.
Are you alright, mate? I've gone to pick up my car.
Oh, hey, how you doing, buddy? Yeah, she's purring like a kitten. Come on, let's go outside. There she is.
Yeah, man. Thanks for that. How much do I owe you?
Oh, don't worry about that for now. Let's go have a word with you over here.
Okay.
Now, you got a great car here. Got a really good system. What I would say though, there's a 99.9% chance that your car will be fine. But what I do recommend is servicing your engine with this new experimental oil technology here that could ruin your engine. But
Nah. I'm alright still.
you sure? I mean, 0.1% is looking a bit scary, don't you think? We've had a lot of cars come into the shop this month. Problems.
Well, if you don't look after your car, it breaks down. That's life, isn't it?
Come on, it'll be fine.
Okay, so if the engine gets ruined, you're liable, right?
No.
The risk to reward ratio ain't sounded too good, so I'm gonna pass on this one. But thanks for the offer, though.
You want a donut? Huh?
What?
Come on, every free oil shot, get a free donut. Huh? What you want? You want burger? Fries? Huh? You want it? I got it. Huh? Come on. What you want? Lotto ticket? Weed? I got it. Come on, just take it. Come on, take this stuff.
No, man.
What are you, anti-oil?
Anti-oil. By the information you just gave me, I'm choosing not to have it. And by the sounds of it, I don't need it.
Listen, you goddamn maggot. You don't take this oil, I'll make sure you never drive again. You understand me?
The choice is yours.
That ain't a choice. That's coercion.
You can't run from it, Daryl. Huh? Everybody's gonna have to take the oil if you want to drive. You understand me? We can't run from it, Daryl.
That was glorious. You're muted up, Scott.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. That really does kind of put it into a kind of a sort of light-hearted way that, why wouldn't you be suspicious of what's going on? The amount of coercion is very similar to that kind of coercion you saw in that example.
Yeah, pretty uncomfortable, but my God, was that not on point?
Very, very much so. And that was from the Bantics Show, just to give them some credit. They've got some other good stuff on there. They do a very good impression of Bill Gates as well.
I bet after that like creepy Fauci mechanic there, I'm pretty sure that guy does a pretty good Bill Gates.
He does a very good Bill Gates. Gormonger 2, welcome. Nice vid. What lunacy? Yeah, the whole thing is. I think actually, I mean, apart from being sick over the last few weeks, the lunacy of this whole thing it does get to me. Honestly, it does. And I'm finding now, I don't know if you're finding this, Seth, and people listening, but when I go out into society and just try and have a normal conversation with the normies, I'm finding it much harder. It's just like, I'm just finding that there's conflict in almost everything I say now, and I can hardly bear to listen to how stupid people are getting about all these things. It's just getting to me. It really is.
It is a war on truth, man.
It is, and it's just become so ridiculous. Like people you might have known for years who just seem to be so illogical, and they think that we've gone crazy.
Well, to be fair, for me, they thought I went crazy a long time ago. Same with you, probably, for most people that know you. I mean, I'm just saying, if you're nearly as active about your opinions as I am about mine, these motherfuckers do not take well to alternative viewpoints on anything. Some do. I always give credit where credit's due, but my goodness, do you not just set most people off? It's brutal. But here we have a list of like topics and stuff. Anybody wants to come in and talk about any of this, if it piques your interest at all, everything going on in South Africa, Biden's anti-gun stuff, talking about everything from 9mm to AR-15s, talking about anything that shoots more than 20 rounds is just, it's ridiculous. The race baiting insanity, vaccine lockdown protests, what's going on in Paris, what's going on in London, what's going on worldwide, Cuba falling apart, Germany's floods, the climate change situation, what is it, misinformation, quote unquote, and the renewed campaign against the truth, the wonderful flat, the flat earth fake space stuff that we got to get into. And I know some people will be like, hey man, flat earth is bullshit. But at the same time, we have the wonders of the ultimate Masonic ritual, generative ritual, as it were, of Richard Branson's nice vagina V shaped craft flying into the sky, followed by Jeff Bezos's cock rocket to the sun. It's glorious, man. It's true. The fact people are buying this shit is just because why not? Why not? And you saw these motherfuckers laughing about it afterwards, just yuck, 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 with his fucking cowboy hat and stuff. It's all just so funny. What else we got? We got Australia lockdowns, Sydney lockdown for over the third death in 18 months. QAnon-tards getting slapped down by Biden at a town hall, which is just, how fucking sad is that? The fact that they're on the tip of such brutal disinformation that this fucking loser, this like doting old man, can manage to start dunking on him in front of live audiences and shit. Although I will say the entire, I don't care if you think I'm Satan reincarnated. I'm like, bruh, I would hope the devil's more eloquent than you and able to like actually tempt me to something and not just seem like a gross old pedophile wearing a fucking flesh suit. I don't know, man. Cuba falling apart, Ron Paul and Fauci's debate over the vaccine stuff is a complete fucking sham, and it's from the Wuhan lab stuff. I mean, dude, I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. I you know what I have said from the beginning of all this shit. Almost anybody listening knows what I've said from the beginning of this shit, but anybody just joining us, I do not, let's say, believe in any of this. I think that this is entirely 100% a prime example of psychological operations 101. Use fear to control, fear of the unknown, fear of death, fear of suffering, fear of even the most basic of inconvenience, especially in Western nations like the United States, where people are so fucking lazy that even just the basic idea of having to sacrifice anything to not be a complete under the government's thumb fucking slave is just, I don't know, man. That seems pretty rough. Well, right now people are actively fighting against this in France, especially. I mean, Paris right now, it's popping off pretty goddamn hard right now. I mean, they have started burning shit, which is, it's bad when, what is it? It's good when it's the BLM people, but it's bad when it's anti-lockdown riots and protests. Sorry. Mostly peaceful protests. I mean, come on, let's coin those same fucking propaganda terms, Scott. I mean, they want a propaganda war. They can get one. Also, New Zealand's prime minister. Did we not hear this? I know this happened like a week or so ago, but we are your single source of truth. Anything you hear that sounds like questionable that you have not heard from us, disregard it. And of course, all these weirdos are looking at this horse-toothed fucking disgusting twat of a prime minister and are like, oh God, she's pretty. I better do what she says. I don't get it, man. I've heard motherfuckers literally and seen motherfuckers say that on all sorts of shit in the media. And I hope to God those are just bots or trolls or somebody.
She's not that pretty though.
That's my thing too. Not that pretty. I'm like, brah, she literally looks like Mr. Ed. She's got the fucking like 2-inch long teeth coming out her fucking mouth like she's a goddamn Cro-Magnon creature or something. And that's who these motherfuckers got telling them what's up.
We've got lots to talk about, including the one of the MPs in UK Parliament stood up and gave a long speech about how Boris Johnson's lied. about a lot of stuff, and then she was told to retract her statement because you're not allowed to say the prime minister lied. So she stood up and said, and repeated it basically, and said, "I'm just going to say it. He's been lying," and stuff. And then she sat down, and then the Speaker of the House goes, "You better retract that because you're not allowed to say that." And Article 27, paragraph 33. And then she stood up and said it again. So they kicked her out. And it's just like, so you're not allowed to say the prime minister lied. As
interesting
part
that
of the
you
system,
said
you know?
paragraph 33. God, I really hope you're right, because that's
I've just exposed myself there.
No. I mean that if that's really true, then that is the chef's kiss on top of everything. Because why fucking not? Why not?
Yeah.
Subsection 13, paragraph 33. You're like, yeah, no, very nice. You're not allowed to criticize the prime minister. It's so fucking evil.
We've got plenty to talk about, and then we'll bring in anyone else on the side. Let us know if you're planning to come and talk, but we'll give you an opportunity later. I thought I'd draw your attention to this. I noticed on the BBC News, it was talking about the Afghanistan curfew imposed as Taliban militants advance. And if you go further down in the article, it talks about how the Afghan government imposed a month-long curfew across almost all of the country on Saturday in a bid to stop the Taliban from invading cities. Apart from the capital Kabul and 2 other provinces, no movement is allowed from 10 o'clock till 4 a.m. So I thought that kind of sounds familiar. So
yeah,
let me just share this article then. So they're not allowed to go out between those hours because of some threat to them. And then you go to websites like this one. Hopefully I'll get the right one here. Let's see. Just a moment.
Yeah, that thing you had there it said Afghan war from 2001 to present just depressed the ever-loving shit out of me, man. Because I was 8 when this started. I'm fucking 28, man. It's still going. There are people that were like 5 when it happened that have already served now. There are people that weren't even born when it happened that have probably already served now. And that's just that. Wow, gotta love it. Freedom for the world, right? Stopping terrorism, huh?
Yeah, I mean the whole thing's ridiculous. And so anyway, the same thing in Thailand. Exactly the same hours, curfews, but of course this time it's COVID. And I'm just wondering, as well as all the other stuff that's going on. Yeah, and then the other thing is, since the U.S. military left Afghanistan, although obviously not all of them, but they didn't have a problem with COVID, but it's started to happen there now. Cases have gone up. It's like, oh, sorry, we're going to move out because we've got this other program we want to bring in now.
But now you guys are getting sick, so we're going to have to come back with international aid to help you. Which, well, of course, we'll need military presence to protect that international aid. Naturally, like why wouldn't we? And it's the same dog and pony show over and over and over and over. No matter what regime people are talking about here, everybody gets this idea that somehow they're gonna like, oh no, this regime is different. If they're accepted by the global establishment, they're never going to be different. Like the Taliban, all these guys are doing the exact same shit. Anybody that they have, the United States, the Afghani authority that they had there or whatever, the government that our government, or God, it feels gross to say that the U.S. government is backing. What do we got here, Scott? Yeah.
So that was just to show you the exact same times in Thailand. Announces 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. It's exactly the same time as Afghanistan, but their threat is the Taliban. But the threat in Thailand is COVID. Makes you wonder: is there something else going on as well as all the other strange goings on? Is it? Yeah.
Well, I mean,
why the same times?
There are a few major U.S. cities that have almost like verbatim the exact same thing going on. Same thing with, I'm sure, Sydney, Australia, or anything like that. There's major cities all over the place that have the exact same curfews. Again, the ridiculousness of the idea of that. Well, I mean, as long as it's daylight hours, COVID's not nearly so transmissible and dangerous, but it's in late night hours when people could, I don't know, have time after their jobs and stuff to maybe meet, talk, plan, resist. I mean, crazy ideas here, man. I wouldn't want them to do that. It must be the COVID. It must be the dangers of the COVID that they're worried about, right? Because of course that's the only reason that they do something like this. Yeah,
indeed. I also just thought I'd take this chance to say a quick hello to everyone in the chat room first, to Jordan, to James, Gormunga 2, Kieran, and anyone else that's listening, Jack.
I see Jordan Thomas has a pretty good taste in rap music there, referencing a certain rapper by the name of Smoke. Blind belief in authority is not a form of science. God damn right it's not. Fuck.
Indeed. I just thought I'd take us quickly to the Truth Sentinel website, www.truthsentinel.co.uk. I noticed there was a posting on the forum, so I thought we'd have a quick chat about this. Second half of 2021 speculation. So the year started off with a bang. I won't read the whole thing out, but I'll read out basically. This was Not So Great Reset who posted this, and he was just asking, or he or she, or these days,
not he, she.
These days, anything else in between could be one of 66 different sexes here. So I don't want to gender you without actually knowing. So I'll just say let's keep this genderless. What are some predictions for the rest of the year, given that's been sort of slow? So they say one thing's for sure: the continued pressing of the vaccine agenda. I would agree with that. I would say that's gonna ramp up, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's. I seriously wouldn't be surprised if within 6 months it's mandated, like literally forcing people to have it. I think that's on the cards, personally. If not, then it will be, well, you can't do anything. You can't go shopping or anything without it. Doubt August will see the fruition of the grand 2-week plan with Trump getting back in. Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. And to be honest,
not holding my breath for that one.
Anyone who's still on the Trump wagon, I mean, the guy was the one who brought out the Operation Warp Speed, the vaccine program, and you still think that's fine?
Yeah, X-22 report. That Dr. what's his Ward guy or whatever, Charlie Ward. Any of these dudes, just if you're still with them, man, they literally expose themselves. The only thing we have as people that just are talking with one another, because you don't know me from Adam, really, right? Like most people, just straight up, they don't. You just know my face, my voice. The only thing I have is my word, right?
I don't even know Adam.
Yeah, fair enough, right? But that's the integrity that you have there in what you say is all that you have, is the fact that you're honest and forward with people. If you're willing to lie, willing to manipulate people with this, and you've shown it, and also you're just flat out wrong, you've shown yourself to be wrong and unwilling to admit that you are wrong, then why the hell would anyone still be listening to you? That's my thing. There are people that still, intelligent people even, that are still watching these assholes that think that somehow they're going to help them, or what is it, SGT report or whatever. Screw that shit. Come on, man. It's the same thing as people that are still watching Alex Jones after all this fucking time or whatever.
Wait a minute. I'm going to stand up for Alex Jones because actually, to his credit, he literally said almost word for word. He did actually. He can make a claim to have predicted what's happening now.
So did a lot of other people.
Yeah. So is a lot of other people. I'm sure we've even come pretty close ourselves.
Fucking A.
But
I wouldn't have as much without him, and I'll always give him that credit. But dude, he is dripping with just the swamp. He's Mr. Trust Trump, man. Come on, Trump's got our back. Trump's our boy. Trump's got us. And you're like, you literally are part of the same lobby, man. It's the only fact that he was pro-Trump is the fact that Trump is going to be the most pro-Israel president ever because Alex Jones has always had a hard-on for Israel. That
fine,
was the that was the biggest mistake.
That was the biggest mistake Alex Jones ever made was aligning with Trump. That was a big mistake.
Big time. But he did it like fucking wholeheartedly. And the fact that
He's still doing it.
could call that still exactly. I wouldn't know, but because I don't listen to him, man. That's the last I saw when he supported Trump with all that shit. That even at the time I wasn't even listening to him. But the second I saw that from somebody else, it was like, fuck that. Fuck Alex Jones. He's Fox News for people with an IQ that's like 10 points above the average Fox listener or Fox watcher. That's about it, man. That's about it.
Well, I'm going to say that he's not the problem. The mainstream media is the problem, and Alex Jones. I always view Alex Jones as just having really, really bad presentation skills. He constantly interrupting guests.
Super male vitality.
Yeah, and all that. Although we are going to sell special nanotech masks ourselves here. Special nanotech masks that I've been wearing out in public. You can breathe freely. Over here in Thailand, you kind of have to wear those to get into a shop. So I've been wearing these mesh masks and getting some strange looks. But
what if I gender identify as permanently masked?
Well, then you're fine. You're fine. Let me continue with this. This posting on Truth Sentinel website. It's looking like a slow decline over the next few years with inflation already hitting the US. Yeah, I think the economic decline is going to be a big thing of the next 6 months.
Already is pretty hard, man. It's like $75 a sheet for fucking plywood where I'm at. Already basic things like plumbing supplies and stuff are going through the fucking roof, man. It's like $10 for a thing of fucking plumber's putty. We're getting pretty rough.
It's going to get worse. The pandemic will continue with XYZ variants. I think we're in agreement there. I think we're going to see a lot more deaths, and it's going to be harder to cover up, and it's going to be obvious.
Agreed.
But I think it's obvious they're going to blame it on us. Basically, it's going to be the unvaccinated.
They've already started.
Yeah, they already are.
Pandemic of the unvaccinated.
I think pretty much whatever's going on at the moment is just going to be ramped up, basically. So that's. At the end, he asked, what did we think was going to be going on the next 6 months? I think everything you see now times 10. So the vaccination push 10 times harder, the blame 10 times harder, the economy plunging 10 times harder, the deaths 10 times higher. That's what I see. But what about people in the chat? And later on, we'll invite you guys to come and talk and see what you think. So have a think what you think is going to happen in the next 6 months. Jordan says Alex Jones is controlled opposition. Israel's using him as a puppet. 6119, we are being conditioned for prison life. That is actually the theme of this episode. I was
going to say, we actually have some notes exactly on that for literally this much too.
Let's talk about that next, actually, because first of all, I want to share a couple of sites about that. I really do think we're being conditioned for prison life. Let me share some websites just to tell you what typical prison life is. Let's just have a look at a typical prison schedule. I'll just open that up in a minute because I thought it'd be useful to look at it because I really believe that. I'm going to show you a little snippet of a video of a woman who spent some time in a quarantine hotel, and you kind of get to see it's pretty much the same, basically.
It's
pretty much the same as
you're legally supposed to allow someone out, and they didn't allow her out at all. So yeah,
no, they didn't. She was basically. I'll play snippets of the video later, but she was basically in self-isolation in a hotel room for 22 days. Let me just share. Let's have a look at a typical prison schedule. So it says here. You get your breakfast at your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner. You get your yard time, 8 till 12, get to the yard. This is very similar to a quarantine hotel. What you get in a quarantine hotel, you get your food pushed under the door. You get a bit of free time in the afternoon. You have to report to the cafeteria for dinner. Well, in the quarantine hotels, you get put under the door. And this woman that I'll show you the video maybe in a while, she had a soldier positioned outside her room. Prisoners have to return to their rooms for lockup. Well, she wasn't even allowed out of her room. All prisoners must be in their cells. Lights are out. I do think that the quarantine system is just conditioning people for that, but not just that. We're all being conditioned for that, to be in at certain times, the curfews, and it's also. I think I've mentioned this before. We've talked about this before. It's also kind of similar to abusive relationships. The
Similar?
similarities. Well, exactly. When I say similar, I mean exactly the same. I think I actually put this this graphic on today's episode, but let's just have a quick look at it, because I got this directly from the UK government website of how to spot an abusive relationship, how to know you're in one. So this is on the UK.gov website. You're in an abusive relationship if you're isolated from friends and family, you're deprived of your basic needs. So this person is monitoring your time, example, curfews, monitoring you via online communication tools or spyware, taking control over aspects of your everyday life, such as where you can go, who you can see, and making you wear things against your will, masks, depriving you access to support services such as medical service. In the UK, that was happening. This is an abusive relationship, and that's exactly what the government are doing to us. So I agree. We're being conditioned for prison. We're being conditioned to be in an abusive relationship, and some people seem to be pretty cool with that, don't they, Seth?
Uncomfortably so. Very uncomfortably so. It feels surreal almost. But as somebody said to me the other day, I don't even know what the fuck surreal feels like anymore, because everything that's quote unquote like I thought was beyond possibility is happening right now, man. And that's why one thing that James Cole says in the chat there of expect everything. That is a wonderful motto. Always be prepared for anything, any possibility, any eventuality. When people call you something stupid like oh, you're a prepper or a whatever, they're morons. They're not prepared. You're prepared. Never shit on the person that's prepared. Even if they're prepared for something you ain't prepared for, maybe you should think about getting prepared, man. Because things are going to get real fucking interesting. And as you said, I have a feeling it's going to be a very bumpy ride to the bottom. Because I think we're at the bottom yet, man.
Oh no! The next 6 months, I think, the pressure's going to be going up, and I think it's. I actually would never mock the preppers. I actually wish I had already prepared, and I wish I could. I don't seem to have the resources. I need to get in the right place. I want to get there. I definitely want to get there, and I've definitely, as I mentioned to you, Seth. I'm starting to make contacts locally here on the ground with people who at least think in the same way. And I would recommend anyone listening who hasn't done that yet, start doing that. You need to make, at the moment, I've just made online contacts of people locally. I'm going to meet up for coffee with them, maybe one by one, just to get to know them. So if things get really tough, which I think there's a good chance they might, at least you know where you can run to get together and kind of form a support group. Even it'd be better to do it even earlier. But I would love to have some kind of commune out in Thailand and be growing vegetables. At the moment, I'm not there yet, but I plan to go there if I can. How about you, sir?
I totally get it. I've got a support group of people and whatnot. I always have recommended with this of community outreach type stuff. Just because something so basic, and I mean, it's hard to even say it right now because, of course, eventually the food shortages and the fucking laws and rules against hoarding and things like that will come into effect. But there are a lot of reasons to want to not just store up on, food, but also essential metals like lead, right? Usually in the form of something at the end of a chamber and whatnot. But I'm not saying purchase bullets and get a gun and be able to defend yourself and all that food and medical supplies and everything you get there. That might, I don't know. That's pretty crazy stuff there, guys. The government is, of course, everyone's really their only option for help. I mean, as we all know, you just call the police, especially out where I live. It'll only be 45 minutes to an hour before they get to you. That's more than enough time for you to be victimized. But hey, whatever. You know, as they say in town there, all these people, you don't need guns. Who would ever need a gun? Why would you ever need guns? It's almost like we're in the abusive relationship, man. Like, in fact, I would say, I would arguably posit that there is no relationship any human being has ever been in, even the most mind-fucked cult in all of human existence that we all recognize as a cult, is any worse than the relationship they're in with government. There is no person, no individual that has a worse relationship or is a worse abuser than government, period, point blank. Government, like, it's the same thing of why we have the science religion of trust the authorities. It's an authoritarian religion. It is literally like part and parcel of the same thing. The trust the experts, no matter what experts that they have, it is all just people that have their fingers or hand fully up the government's ass, and thus the taxpayers' asses. And we're paying for it, man. We're paying for it. And the only way it stops is when people start being like those Frenchmen. And I never thought I'd say that, huh?
Talking of going up the ass or up the nose with the PCR test, James Cole said, I watched it, shocking stuff. He's talking about the video. I think I might just show a few clips of that video in a moment. Protests will not go uninfiltrated. That's true.
Yeah,
the larger it's good that the protests will get larger, but the larger they get, the more likely it's just going to become uncontrollable. But I think it's inevitable. That's going to happen.
Like, just think, as a kid, and I know it's going to sound kind of ridiculous, but as a kid, I remember having to do reports on the French Revolution and stuff in school, and I took it a lot more seriously than most people did. Actually went like way deep on it, did like I don't know, like 14, 15 page report on it or something like that. It was like a really big deal. But there was so much stuff that I thought these people were savages for at the time of how could they possibly do this to some of these things, like literally tearing people apart and like with their bare hands and stuff like that, shooting people out of cannons and insane shit. And then I experienced this. Then I got to watch the pain, the frustration, the hate building inside people as they feel completely unable to do anything to defend themselves against the greatest victimizer of all, government. So I'm just saying, they keep pushing people against the wall. We're going to see some fucking horrifying shit that is going to be, if you have a weak stomach, you might not want to stick around, man. There's a reason some people are trying to flee to the wilderness, because shit is going to get real fucking weird here for the next couple years.
Seth's not saying that the government doesn't love you, because of course they do. But
that's definitely, I'm not saying government doesn't. Government loves you. They love you so much, they want to put you in a box so they can keep you there forever.
In a box, like a hotel room, like a quarantine hotel room.
Yeah, like a quarantine hotel full of love and kittens and happiness. Not a pine box in the fucking ground, or let's be honest, more like a black plastic box where they can fit you and 20 other motherfuckers that look just like you into. Yeah, definitely not that.
Let's see what that looks like. Here is this lady. I'll tell you her name in a moment.
This feels like a glorified prison.
We're going to listen to little snippets of her account of
interesting lady,
of her experience in a New Zealand quarantine hotel. Let me give you a little bit of background. Basically, she went back to New Zealand where she came from, and she had to do I think it was going to be 14 days, but it turned out because she decided she didn't want to take their version of the PCR test, they decided to make an example of her and just gave her the full prison treatment. Let's listen to snippets of it. And I'm not going to play the whole thing. It'll take too long, but maybe I'll post the video link later, or you can check out her name because I think her name comes up on the screen in a moment. And we'll just listen for a couple of minutes. We'll talk about it. Seth will maybe give us some more news articles, and then we'll see if any of you guys have got something to come and talk to us about. So let's just listen for a second.
That is being masqueraded as some kind of facility to protect the community from some kind of deadly plague.
Sam Bailey, and joining me on the show today is a very courageous individual, Mary Jane Newman, who is sharing her shocking experience of what happened in a New Zealand managed isolation and quarantine facility.
I was returning to New Zealand that I knew, the New Zealand that I loved, with the friendly people, and that it would all just be an easy, straightforward process. That's what I just assumed.
What happened when you first arrived in New Zealand?
Yeah, this is when things started to really change. I mean, when I first arrived in the country, it was also very apparent that the New Zealand I'd left was not the New Zealand I had returned to. When I arrived, particularly in the facility that I was being quarantined in, which was the Sudima Hotel in Christchurch by the airport, you are given some paperwork that they ask you to complete once you've been shown to your room. And I looked through the paperwork, and one of the pieces of paperwork was consenting to having everything that you are having delivered to the hotel searched. So yeah, I was just like, oh wow, that's quite full on, because this is my private things that I'm having delivered. And if I want to have those things, I need to consent to having my things searched. And I wasn't going to be having anything strange delivered, it was just going to be foodstuffs. But still, it is an invasion of my privacy. However, one of the other pieces of paper that you have to sign is consenting to have this PCR test on day 3 and on day 12 of your stay. And I just didn't sign the paperwork. However, one of the questions on there was, do you have any questions about the test? So I just said yes. I have some questions that I would like to ask. And I left the rest of the page blank. I believe it was within 24 hours of handing back that paperwork that I started to receive knocks on my door asking me about why I was not consenting to the test. And I said, yes, I do have questions about this, and I would be open to discussing alternatives to testing me in that way. And I was met with, there are no alternatives in New Zealand. This is the only method, and you have to consent to this, or we will extend your stay in quarantine. I'd been shown to a room that had no opening windows, and the expectation in quarantine is that you spend most of those initial 14 days inside that room. And I asked if I could be moved to a different room that had opening windows, because I said, you know, this is about supporting health and well-being by having us in here for 14 days. And eventually, just because I politely but firmly pushed the idea of being allowed to be in a room that had open windows or some access to fresh air, they moved me to a ground floor room. It's in that room where I started to get questioned about not consenting to the PCR test. For breakfast, they would just drop the breakfast bag outside your door, and then lunch would be dropped off, you know, approximately 12:30, 1 o'clock, and someone would knock on the door and say lunch. And same for dinner. It was usually around about 6 o'clock. Someone would come along, and you could hear them coming along the corridor, you know, knocking on everyone's door and saying dinner. So 6 o'clock came, and I heard the trolley coming and going, and nothing got dropped outside my door. Anyway, 6:30 came, and still nothing outside my door. 7 o'clock came, still nothing outside my door. And by 7:30, I'm like, I'm really hungry. So I go outside my door, and there's a soldier sitting outside my door now. I say to him, has dinner been delivered? And he says, yes, it has. And I said, has my dinner been withheld? And he said, yes, it has. And I said, and are you now outside my door to guard my door? And he said, yes, I am. I said, okay, thanks. And I was so lost for words that I just walked back inside my room, and I was just like, holy moly, I'm actually under a military guard and they're withholding my food.
So they are punishing you?
Yes. I was now being punished for refusing to be tested. Eventually someone comes at around 8 o'clock in the evening. It's one nurse, and she knocks on the door and just says nursing. And so I open the door, and she hands me my evening meal. And I say thank you. I can't recall exactly what she says now, but there was some reason as to why my meal was being withheld. And I'm just like, right, because I'm so lost for words at what's actually happening that it's hard to even fathom a response to that kind of treatment. This is not New Zealand. This feels like a glorified prison. There's CCTV cameras, so you are being monitored 24/7.
What is the exercise area like?
It was basically a concrete yard that has got this double fence all around it. People are walking around in circles. It looked like a prison yard, just exactly the way you see prisoners walking around in circles. By this time, like I said, I have a military guard outside my door, but I also notice beyond the fence, beyond the double fence, I hasten to add, that there's now a soldier that's also patrolling right outside the fence of my room on the outside.
You're on the countdown to your last day. What happened at this point? Did they tell you on your last day that you're allowed to leave?
No, so what happened towards the end of the 22 days, given, you know, we're now approaching Christmas. So it's the 20th day. Actually, what I was actually told was we will review your case on the 22nd day. So on that final day, on Christmas Eve, I didn't see anyone in the morning. It was, I think, just before midday or around about midday, 2 nurses came to my door. Bearing in mind I'm about to be released in a couple of hours, and they came to my door still dressed in PPE to do daily checks. And I promptly started to just move my things out into the hallway outside my door, at which point the person who's, you know, on duty at that particular point guarding my corridor, because I was still the only person in that space, promptly opens the door. Don't move. You have to wait until someone comes up. And I said, it's okay. I said, I'm not moving. Anyway, thankfully, the person who did come up was a very friendly, very helpful member of the military team that were there. And as we walked down through the hotel corridors, he was asking me some questions about my time. And it became very apparent very, very quickly that he and probably most other people had absolutely no idea that I had been kept in that room without being able to go outside for the entirety of my time in there. Because he said to me when I described it, he said, that's solitary confinement that you've been kept in. And I was like, I know. He said, I thought you were allowed outside, you know, escorted with a soldier. And I was like, no. I said, I haven't been allowed outside since I arrived. I said, I wasn't allowed to cross the threshold of my doorway. And he's like, wow, he said, that is solitary confinement. He said, we don't even do that in our military training.
Well, they do that in American military training, or at least they used to. So that's
Guantanamo Bay, maybe.
No, I mean like actual U.S. military training. Like literally, they used to put people, I don't know if they still do, in like little tiny isolation chambers, like the hot box thing and whatnot, where you sit out in a tiny cell type thing where they lock you up. It's because they torture each other, because it's gang mentality shit, dude. It's literally evil. It's like a gang induction, hazing, as you'd call it. Horrifying. And they're doing it to the rest of us. That lady's attitude was about the most positive mental attitude you could expect there. Needless to say, I would be a little bit more cross, let's just say cross, angry, enraged perhaps, but that's just me. I might not be so nice to all these people they had no idea. They're just doing their jobs. I'm like, okay, well, feel free to just do your job when you're getting your
maybe she's
teeth out of your fucking food.
Maybe she's grateful they didn't waterboard her. Maybe she's just they didn't waterboard me, you know.
yeah, they didn't hold
it's pretty
chemical glow sticks up my ass, so I suppose I should be grateful, you know. Fuck, they just starved me and let me go alone there. It's fucking hoosh.
As someone in the chat mentioned earlier, I do think it is all about getting us used to prison life, because I think that's where they intend to send some of us.
And notice they do the exact same thing as with prison, when instead of punishing some people, they punish all people. They are going to blame us, the anti-vaxxers, and then they are going to punish everyone and are going to blame us again. And that's going to be the entire thing. They're going to try and do prison warden rules as they do every fucking time, because it's the only trick they have in their book is divide and conquer, divide and conquer, divide and conquer over and over and over and over and over again, because they're fucking unoriginal, man. It's the sort of shit that we start thinking beyond these boxes and actually putting in resistance to these fucking losers. We can stop it, man. You know what I'm talking about. The veneer is so thin. Everyone can feel it. You can feel it. Like everyone listening can feel it. It literally feels like we're in a system that's decaying, that's literally falling apart, as though the walls that looked to be made of stone this entire time are made of fucking paper, okay? These guys have no control. They are literally like on a fucking train that is just going off the rails, man. It's done. And yet people, for some reason, think that they're going to just be able to sit down, stick their thumb up their butt, and wait for it to get better. You're living in a false reality. And collective punishment is a war crime. No, Aussie is right. That is
Stay positive,
literally a
but
war crime.
it's not getting better. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. So you have to prepare for it. Let's just say a quick shout out to people in the chat. I want to say hello to Walter, brainfeed.ca. We actually did an episode together many years back now, I think, Walter. It has been a while, and we'll definitely catch up. Be good for you to come on our show, or we actually did. You'll be forgiven for not remembering this, but Walter did join us on a kind of like an episode where we had like 4 of us.
Oh my God! Yes, I totally remember that. That's like 2018 or something like that. It's
a long time ago. The whole world's disintegrated since
Jesus,
then.
It feels like it, dude. I mean, 3 years used to be nothing, man. I was like, oh, 3 years ago, whatever, right? But 3 years now is like a fucking huge gulf, because that's way back in the Elden days when things were actual normal, or at least close to it. And then somebody that's even older than me, like you, are just like, Seth, what are you talking about, man? I remember life before 9/11. That was actual normal. Then you talk to somebody even fucking older than that, and they're like, what the fuck are you talking about, Scott? I remember before fill in the blank. That was actual normal. And it's like, fuck. Let me just like that's the thing. Frogs in the pot, man. Frogs in the pot.
Let me just remind everyone, this is a call-in show, and I think now is the right time to just give anyone who wants to come and chat to us the opportunity. Maybe in a minute or so, Seth, you can bring up another news article, and then we'll just invite anyone who wants to come on. I just wanted to remind people that we do these shows once every 2 weeks, or at least once a month now. Sometimes it just gets to me and I can't do them too regularly. But anyway, it's usually around the same time as it is now, 11 a.m. EST, 10 a.m. Central, 8 a.m. PST, 5 p.m. GMT. There might be some small differences due to summer times and stuff like that, but basically the time it's now on a Sunday. We'll aim to do another one in 2 weeks, but if not, within 4 weeks anyway. How it works, we post the link in the chat, which I'm going to do now. Anyone who wants to join, get your headset ready. So the sound quality is not too bad. Make a comment, question, come on for a couple of minutes, say what you want to say, and then we'll talk about that. Here's the link, everyone. I'm just posting in the chat. Anyone who wants to come in. Before the show, I do put a link underneath the promo set, basically with the voicemail. There's also a voicemail. So it'd be good to have a couple of voicemails to play every show. You can also go to the Truth Sentinel website, www.truthsentinel.co.uk, and you can leave a comment in like I read out from the forum today. Seth, have you got any article to talk about just to inspire people
I do.
Before they come on?
I have a little bit. We first have in the chat here, Jordan Thomas. They use religion to keep the masses passive, waiting for Jesus instead of taking back their countries, fighting these tyrants. Very true. And I mean, it's not just Jesus, because they do it with like Islam. They do it with all sorts of different religions to try and keep people in this same, thumb up the butt, just waiting. Come on, man. Any day now. Any day now. Any day now. They keep saying the same shit for like over like 1,000 years, 1,500 years. I mean, within like the first few years of the Christian church being a thing, they already had millennialists just like, oh God, the world's ending. And so, of course, you have this weird panic good until people just passive, man. They're just passive. But, oy vey. For fucking news here, we have Delta variant may cause steep increase in cases. Deaths in fall model show. Yeah, I'm gonna believe that. The oy vey was because we have Ben & Jerry's opposed by U.S. State Department now over their BDS stuff. So we literally have the State Department kvetching for Israel because Ben & Jerry's, both of whom are Jewish guys that are super, super left wing on all sorts of stuff. They just happen to not be down with the illegal settlements. And so that right there is anti-Semitism. U.S. State Department investigating them. And no matter what, all these people on the right that want to act like, oh my God, Biden, it must have just started now. Donald Trump was doing this shit, and I watch as people like the MCR TVs, the Newsmaxes, the Fox Newses go, oh yeah, get those Ben & Jerry's guys, because they're stopping them for the anti-Semitism and all this. I'm like, you guys are literally supporting the gutting of free speech, but I wouldn't expect anybody that's dumb enough to keep voting for fucking Republicans to just, okay, yeah, they're going to make it better. Yeah, they're going to make it better. And it's just the entire false dichotomy of like, well, this team is less fucked up than this team, despite the fact that both of them push us towards the exact same goal. As we've said before, Trump is Mr. Operation Warp Speed. But, somehow he was going to make things better. He was going to make things better. Speaking of different news stuff we have here, we of course had the Bezos stuff, which I of course want to talk with anybody about. I mean, even if you have more of a spacey type angle on it, and you believe that these guys actually went, or think that it's all entirely for show, or like some people like myself think it's entirely for show because they didn't go anywhere. I've noticed that the space propaganda, let's call it, has ramped the fuck up with Elon Musk, Richard Branson making his appearance again, and Jeff Bezos all together in the same place doing their very, very subtle generative magic rituals there in front of the populace. Jeff Bezos, of course, afterwards with his cowboy hat. Like, it's just such a big joke to all these people. I mean, Elon Musk was talking about the fact that he's hanging out, or what is it? Richard Branson talking about the fact that he's hanging out with Elon Musk at like fucking 3 a.m. and all this stuff. And it's just because they're actors, man. This is a joke. They're not like real fucking business people. They're just hanging out, getting fucked up the entire time because this is all a spiel, a joke, a farce for people, and yet they'll keep buying it, man. Keep fucking buying it. I mean, he has a giant dick rocket, and it flies up after the guy who has the giant fucking vagina shaped fucking rocket with the weird like thrusters and shit coming off it. It's just, are these people really still buying this shit? At the Olympic ceremony, I didn't get to watch the entire opening ceremony, just some highlights that were very tightly edited and all this stuff. So there's a reason they didn't want all this to come out in a full stream or whatever. And I mean, who knows? Probably is already on line right now. I'll have to go check it out after the stream. But they had, what was it? All the drones that start out looking like a fucking Stargate for their immediate stuff in the sky for their opening ceremony. And then it turns into like a giant sphere that then turns into all the different countries and stuff because we are one global people united. Very, very, very culty shit. They have a pyramid-like structure that they have like almost like a ziggurat or some shit on the inside of the stadium with a big fucking sphere at the top of it. Very Cristo Mundi or Salvador Mundi rather, subtle sort of propaganda again. It just seems like they're losing the narrative on almost everything, and so they're going, what is the expression? Balls out, as it were. Let's see.
But I hope you're not mocking the vaccines at all, Seth, because I don't know if you've seen these articles that crop up almost every day now. If you mock COVID-19, you usually end up dead on the BBC website.
If you're some completely lame-ass actor deprived by the news, I mean, there is that. But again, I mean, I wouldn't want to imply that anyone in the UK, especially not the BBC, would be behind propaganda. I mean, it's not like there's even laws there like there used to be in the United States that prevented them from foisting wartime propaganda upon their populace. I mean, there was never even a law there in the first place. So it's obvious that they never stopped doing that because they've constantly done that the entire time. Remember, Scott, keep calm and stay productive or whatever the fuck it is. Like just that bullshit, same over and over and over again. Just you keep a stiff upper lip, chaps. Who cares that we're starving in the streets? Who cares that conditions are shit? Who cares that any of this stuff? We're supposed to suffer in stoic silence because that's the British way, right? It's just, but again, not like the BBC would produce propaganda. Not like they would ever do that.
Oh no,
no, same thing with stuff in the news here.
Trusted source of information. The only trusted source of information. Just to remind everyone, I've posted the link there again. Anyone who wants to join, now's your chance. Just switch off your video and just to help with bandwidth. Come and queue up in the queue. There's a long queue of people waiting at the moment, but actually no, I lied. There's no one at the moment, but you're welcome to come and join us. We always love to hear what's happening in your neck of the woods.
Indeed.
So, sorry, carry on, Seth.
Well, we also have Johnson & Johnson looks at moving liabilities from baby powder asbestos lawsuits into separate company, which will then file for bankruptcy in bid to avoid $2 billion payouts. How do you feel about that, Scott? Is that interesting? That same company there, but we should trust them with their vaccines, right? I mean, that's what YouTube and their Google overlords would love us to believe, and their government overlords above them.
It's not as if they've been sued for billions of dollars before. Yeah.
And that they'd have asbestos in baby powder. I'm sure they have way higher standards when it comes to the jabs, right? I'm sure they would never be on the same tip.
No,
also,
that's for our own good.
That I didn't get into yet, that I didn't know if we really wanted to, but I find.
Well, before you do, Andre, just to let you know, Andre's sitting on the side, so we can bring him in.
Let's bring him in and talk about South Africa right now, because that that definitely seems like some pertinent stuff going on.
Let's say hello to Andre. How you doing, Andre?
Yes, hi guys. How you doing that side?
Not too bad, considering.
Yes. I'm sure you saw what happened in this shithole the last 2 weeks. I mean,
how you holding up, man? That matters more to me right now. And like how are you holding up and shit? You okay?
Andre? I think we've lost Andre for a second there.
Okay. Well, shit, that was a really awkward time to lose him. Fuck, man.
Andre, we can't hear you at the moment. Andre, Earth to Andre, can you hear us?
It's all right. He's probably got some bandwidth shit or something going on. I mean, with everything that we've seen there lately, who the fuck knows what's going on with his internet?
Let me try adding you again, Andre. No, I'll just give you 1 minute to sort it out, and then I'll try bring you back in again, because we'd like to know, how things are going in South Africa there.
From everything I've seen, it's wow. The miles of people waiting outside the grocery stores that are essentially empty, that they're looking to get nothing and stuff like that is...
Did you see the video of the one woman who drove along in her car showing the length of the queue? It's like the longest queue you've ever seen.
In my entire life, ever. Like, I haven't seen anything, even in places like China or India, that are that scary, man. That's spooky shit.
Andre, are you there? Oh, he came back briefly, then disappeared again. We'll try again in a moment, Andre. Yeah, the queue, the woman who made the video of the queue, it was just breathtaking. You wouldn't, there's no way, after seeing the length of that queue, you wouldn't even bother trying to join.
Also, when it comes to the writing on the wall, when it comes to the morons, there is just too classic. It almost felt like a bad racist joke or something, where every single building in this whole fucking like this whole big old mall has been robbed and burned out, with one exception: the bookstore, which looks as though it just opened up, completely new, untouched. Because why would anyone want books? Those are worthless. I mean, people literally stealing everything that's not nailed down, and these motherfuckers do not touch a book because, well, I think we know. Dumb people are the ones that start to go rob motherfuckers and riot and stuff. People that know what's up, they take their fights elsewhere.
Let's see if Andre can connect with us. Can you hear us, Andre?
Yes, I got sorry. It seemed to be internet problem there.
Okay, no worries. We can hear you now. So how did things pan out in your neighborhood?
Well, the Western Cape was reasonably quiet. They tried their luck, after they got a lot of success down in Durban. Now, Durban, just for reference purposes, is approximately 1,500 kilometers or 1,000 miles from us here in Cape Town. And Johannesburg's about the same, about 1,000 miles from Cape Town. So, when I spoke to you guys a few months ago, I mentioned to you that things were getting bad and civil war was definitely on our doorstep.
Oh, yeah.
And, when they locked up this slimeball Zuma for contempt of court, look, he's been evading the law for about 20 years now.
Can you give us a little bit of the situation with that guy, of like, what the fuck is up with that?
Yes, look, Jacob Zuma was the previous president before the Cyril Ramaphosa.
Okay.
And, basically Jacob Zuma, he arranged with all his cronies initially to basically what they do, what they call state capture. So he appointed all his cronies, and they basically literally stole approximately 2 trillion rand from the economy. So, it was a free for all. So what happened is we have this, what they call a Zondo commission that's currently sitting, and it's sort of, let's come clean type of thing with all the criminals going there, and like a truth and reconciliation type commission. They haven't prosecuted anyone from there yet. So then he refused to go there, and then the Constitutional Court, which is the highest court in South Africa, said that he must be locked up for 15 months. So then a few days after he was locked up, this sort of set upon a chain reaction, but I think it was a convenient excuse, because a lot of other things had been brewing in the background. And then it was total anarchy. Guys, they just, for some reference purposes, they looted approximately 3,000 stores. 1,700 ATM, the automated cash tellers, were cleaned out. There's dozens of malls where they totally destroyed the whole mall. They destroyed huge warehouses, thousands of fridges, stoves of LG and their TVs, and also DeFi. I mean, it was absolute carnage. And of course, the pathetic SAPS, our police service, was nowhere to be found. The military was nowhere to be found. Ramaphosa, the coward, was hiding in some hole somewhere. And literally the people in the suburbs were left to defend themselves.
That's insane, man. That's insane. I'm glad that you guys are okay, but that's just wow.
Yeah,
because seeing some of that stuff of the footage of afterwards, it literally, there's certain war zones that I've seen footage of that didn't look that goddamn bad, right? Like that was fucking insane. People running down the street with big old, like the self-loaders and the fucking, the forklifts and stuff. Like, what the fuck?
Totally. They stole trucks. They stole the forklift. Literally the poster child for anarchy, literally free for all. Anything goes. And that's what we dealt with here. And the communities, I'm originally from Durban, and the guys in my old hometown of Manzimtoti, they, for instance, stood together. They burnt down, these, like you guys have these storage warehouses where they're like single garages, but there's a lot of them, and they totally obliterated them. They stole everything out of them. And of course, it's not enough to steal. You must set it alight afterwards and burn it out, as a good communist always does. As Winnie Mandela at that time said, we'll liberate this country with matches and tires and petrol. So that is in the DNA of these savages.
Aren't all these guys in the government all ANC too, including the dude that's being held in prison or that's been in prison?
Well, totally. They all believe in the revolution tactics. They are all communists. They're aligned. The ANC is aligned with the Communist Party in COSATU, which they call it a tripartite alliance. So it's coming to a town near you soon in the USA. I know you had your riots last year, but
oh no, it's going to get worse. I know.
The things are really, and here's the cherry on the cake, guys. Do you want to hear the crescendo to all of this? This is the ultimate. Now, what happened was, look, they even hit the docks, okay, in Durban. Now, Durban is the biggest port in the whole of the African continent, okay? It's all the vehicles come in there, everything. So this whole thing was orchestrated. Just to give you an example, the military ran out of ammunition. It was a total joke. So what happened is the military and the police had ordered 1.5 million rounds of a variety type of ammunition, 9mm, 5.56, and a variety of weapons. Now, there was a container in the Durban harbor sitting on the 3rd level, okay? Now, out of thousands of containers, they found that. The worst part is that container has been proven with, bill of ladings, etc., was destined to be offloaded in Cape Town. It came from Brazil. Okay, so Brazil, if you sort of look at the map, you just go slightly north and you follow a straight line and you come out to Cape Town. So it's the closest port anyway to in South Africa from Brazil. So to have taken it to Durban, somebody had instructed them to
it's an inside job.
Divert it from Cape Town to Durban. which is at least a sort of a 5-day voyage, and of course conveniently was found. So we now currently have 1.5 million rounds of ammunition and weapons on the street unaccounted for, and we all strongly believe that is what they use into potentially going forward in the next few weeks to kick off the civil war.
Who's the big street gang involved with? Because I guarantee you they have a paramilitary organization that they're funding.
No, it's what they call them the MK veterans, which is the old the military wing Umkhonto we Sizwe of the ANC government.
Yep.
Now,
I would bet
the
my
interesting
hand that it's those motherfuckers to have
Totally.
the goddamn shit on the ground, because that would be perfect as far as who has access
Yes.
to the Port Authority stuff, who has access with the cops, who has access with any of this, because they have contacts in the government that can get any of this shit that they want.
Correct. So here's the interesting part as well. What they did analysis, look, obviously they stole millions of items, but the places that were hit the most were the warehouse facilities and the retail stores for camping equipment, okay? They stole every single solar panel off the Macro, which is a massive warehouse like your place there, and they took that. They even looted the blood bank, okay? Of all the blood supplies, there's video evidence of that. So our Macro is like your Walmart there. So all the things that a military needs to really sustain them for a period of time, all that stuff was cleaned out. Chemicals, every single thing, radio equipment, cell towers. It's not just that people woke up one day and decided that they're going to go loot. There have apparently been 12 people that have been the architects of this, and they got the WhatsApp messages, etc. If they ever come to book, who knows? But there's a bigger picture to this whole thing. It's not just a random looting exercise. There's a methodology behind it. And we strongly do believe going forward that their civil war is going to break out in this country. You can just think for yourself, if you got 1.5 million rounds of unaccounted, unlawful ammunition on the street with weapons, isn't that a recipe for chaos?
Well, and God only knows what else they got. You know what I mean? Because that's just the stuff that they're willing to report. Because for real, they could get whatever the fuck else that they have in these containers. Because if they're willing to try to play the game of, we'll hide the shipping container here and that, and they can get all of that. That means they could rearrange stuff in order to get whatever kind of like high caliber weapons you can fucking imagine. You know what I mean? Like all sorts of shit that's like police only or government only type ammunition, type guns, type explosives, all this shit. And the way that you said the blood bank stuff, that really is what makes me think that they're going for long term.
No doubt about it.
Andre, Andre, do you feel that this kind of thing is going to happen? It's just happening there first, and it's going to happen basically in a lot of other major cities around the world. Partly because of all the lockdowns and the decline in society because of everything that's happened with COVID-19.
Yes, they conveniently use the lockdowns here as an excuse. Now, just to give you an example of our lockdown, we now in our third lockdown. They got different stages of it. We now on level 4. So every time, for instance, South Africans, and I exclude myself, I don't touch alcohol, but alcohol is a major thing. South African, I think, have got the highest alcohol usage in the world. Okay, so now this third lockdown, they for a month now have not been able to buy. They always ban alcohol because they say that increases the amount of trauma cases in the hospital, which takes up valuable beds for COVID. So the guys are already tense on that. And then you find, obviously, our economy is tanked. Everything's been stolen by the corrupt government, not way before COVID. Our GDP to debt ratio is heading towards 100%. So it's a perfect storm. Then you still throw into the mix that there's internal strife within the ANC, with their factions over there. You've got what they call card deployment, which is incompetent, unqualified idiots running municipalities right up to government. As an example, our head of our military, you will not believe this, as a woman, she's totally incompetent. She has a nursery school teacher's qualification. Never done military in her life, has no qualification, doesn't know if she's coming or going. Okay, so we are run by imbeciles from top to bottom, which perpetuates this continuous incompetence. And we are now on the verge of an absolute failed state.
Well, to be fair, I think most of our leaders are imbeciles. Look, we've got Boris Johnson in charge of the UK. You've got
he's a
Biden.
clown.
You've got Biden in charge of the US. I mean, look at these people. They're not exactly the cream of society, are they?
No, I must agree with you. That Boris Johnson, every time I see that clown, I can't believe. I mean, that guy is as pathetic as I've seen. He always looks, can't cut his hair just for once. I mean, the guy's had what, about 3-4 wives? He's got how many illegitimate kids? I mean, he's a total clown. All that comes to mind when he was in mayor, when he was stuck on that, that rope there. And I mean, he's a total fool. Biden obviously is. I mean, he shouldn't even be there. He's a total factory fault. But I mean, yes, I think they're using this as a testing ground. But I can tell you now, guys, you've got to watch what's going to happen here in the next few weeks. Big things are going to happen. Everyone's on full alert. And I'm telling you, things are going to get wild here. And we're going to be left to defend ourselves.
Well, come and join us next time, Andre, and keep us updated. Have you got any final comments before we move on?
Yeah, guys, well, let's just hope that, something positive comes out of what's happening in America, etc., with what's going on there. We've spoken about that whole scenario before. I do still strongly believe there's some clown show going on there. I really do. I don't know to what degree, but something is not right there. And I really do think something big in the US is going to happen still within this year as well. And there's interesting times. And I see guys in France are standing up. There's the towns, you've got the whole queue thing happening. I know the UK standing up to the lockdowns. We got strife here in South Africa. So I think things are coming ahead worldwide.
I think you're right. And I think, big things are going to happen in the coming months. But I hope you'll come and join us again. And Andre, good to talk to you again.
Indeed, man. It was good to talk to you.
I will do. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Andre.
Peace, man.
Good to speak to Andre there, and it's always good to hear from you guys and to find out what's going
Indeed.
on
in the chat
on the ground.
Stuff. We got 61 stars 19. We have the people, or 61 asterisk 19, whatever it is. The people who took communism to Russia and then China are now behind the Biden regime. And it says a global Masonic military coup behind all disorder. There is a secret order. And I totally agree. I have a feeling that it's going to be very contrived sort of stuff there. What Andre was talking about definitely seems as though there's some level of complicity on both sides, because I mean, if the ANC government really wanted to shut down these paramilitary coup people or whatever, then they could have done that easily. This definitely seems like this is the order out of chaos type thing, and this is their ability or attempt to put in a boss hog government over all of these different people, so that there's not even the illusion anymore of freedom or anything like that to even tempt people. We also have Goremonger 2, quote, I'm ready for the chaos to hit the US. We've dug our own grave, and we're not going to learn as a people until we face the some real consequences. And I totally agree on that one. I think that's a really good point. For some reason, people in Europe, after having had 2 world wars fought in their backyards, weren't exactly real keen on sparking wars all over the fucking world. And yet the United States seems raring to go, just because there hasn't been one on our soil since 1865. So just saying, it's time to wonder. We have 61 asterisk 19 again. Those in the Pentagon are systematically dismantling the U.S. military. I fear for the safety of the troops. History shows these entities have no problem sending armies on mass suicide missions. That is a fact. Because what is it? Henry Kissinger called them useless eaters, or dumb animals to send to die in
cannon fodder.
Pawns. Yeah, exactly. Cannon fodder. We have Snake Jones. I almost said Jake the Snake. I love it. Snake Jones 19. I put at least a few rounds in these UN helmets. I keep for target practice a day. Indeed. Well, that's always a wonderful target there to have. I certainly know the United Nations would never do anything wrong. I mean, I remember distinctly seeing John Birch Society articles from the 1950s and 60s, I believe, from my great grandfather, or that he had right in his possessions and stuff as we were cleaning out the house and everything when he died. When I was like little kid, he died, but this is like years later. One of the things that they had in there is talking about how I believe it's in the Philippines. I'm pretty sure it was the country they were talking about, or American Samoa. The United Nations peacekeeping forces is Java. I'm almost positive it was Java and shit popping off there in like the 60s or 70s. And the United Nations people aren't exactly the friendliest type, let's say. You know what I mean? Let's say that people try and think of them as, oh, they're an international peacekeeping force, when in reality, they're just the next level of boss hog losers that are going to try and control your life.
I think society is will decline, and
Yeah.
And there'll be lots of protests. But the protests are inevitable. I'd probably join one myself if there was some going on here, but they are going to lead to the breakdown in society. Then you're right. I think the UN troops will come in and say, hey, we're here to save the day, you know.
I certainly don't want to deal with stuff in the state that I'm in right now. Not emotionally, physically, psychologically, like literally the state that I'm in right now as the governor of the wonderful state of Washington here decided to not relinquish his powers, and that it's going to, if anybody wants to get rid of it, they're going to have to forcibly strip them from these motherfuckers. And I predicted that from the beginning. It's nice to see that I'm right again, I guess. Not really that nice. I actually would like to be proved wrong a few times by these people. I don't know, having a spine, standing the fuck up, doing something. It would be real nice, but I guess it's just us, man. There is no justice, just us. So it is what it is.
And
yeah, exactly.
Snake Jones has pointed out about the Bosnians. Yeah, they were completely let down by the UN. I guess we could, we'll probably be finishing in the next sort of 10 minutes or so. We'll see how it goes. But I thought we could start talking about kind of what we plan to do ourselves. Like, I mean, I plan to try and form a little community here of people, because I think things are going to turn a lot worse than people even think in the next 6 months. I think things are going to get pretty bad globally. I mean, to varying degrees around the world. Here too, I'm kind of imagining things could get pretty difficult here, and I don't know how I'm going to get back to the UK, and do I want to go back to the UK anyway? There's all kinds of things running through my head, but forming groups, getting fit, trying to sort of detach yourself from these things. Sometimes I think it's important. Gormonger 2 says joining a protest is risky. Look at what they're doing to dumb sensational boomers who got convinced on Facebook to go to January 6th.
Preach.
Yeah, fair enough. That's slightly different though, because I think
risky, not too risky. To be fair, he did just say risky, and to be honest, it is risky. Not necessarily too risky to be worth it, but at very least, you gotta be skeptical of all this shit. The January 6th stuff was one of the biggest clusterfucks I've seen in a minute, and these assholes want to still continue to say, "Oh my God, it was a coup. They were trying to overthrow the government, man." And what I saw was about the most pathetic shit in the entire world. People walking through velvet ropes and stuff like that, listening to cops, letting the cops murder a woman there, and then doing absolutely nothing about it. I mean, come on, say what you will about the loser, like hardcore left-wing communist weirdos in the streets. At very least, they've taken some of the fucking cops to task for the shit that they've done to them, and not just taking it lying down. I think
the whilst the media are totally controlled by the global elites, that's the biggest problem that everyone faces, because they can just turn any story into whatever they want.
Yeah.
So,
well, speaking of which, there's something I want to talk about of the Tokyo Olympics, of two people, of event organizers that have been taken out. One was because, and this is to me, it's the really big one, just because it seems so trite and banal that it's just like, oh, whatever, right? One of the guys gets fired for, what is it, saying, as a 33-ton truck hit the wall, what is it? The wisest thing to do is to get out of the way. Yeah, fucking A. That is a fact. That is a fact. But one of the event organizers was canceled and fired and whatnot because he allegedly bullied some people when he was in high school. The reason I say that one is the one that's really important is because the other one is one that we could have all fucking expected. Is the other one is the guy that wrote supposedly the entire ceremony itself. They had to get rid of him because he, as a comedian in 1997, 1998, something like that, made a joke of like about the Holocaust or something. It was like, but when they said it, if they actually referenced it, it's like some of the most tame, goofy shit in the world. Jimmy Carr says way worse stuff, and ain't nobody trying to fucking murder that dude. Okay. But the one with about the bullying thing was just, that should tell everybody out there, there is no playing it safe. There is no just keep your head down and you'll be okay or whatever the fuck. Because if they view you as an enemy, they will find any means to destroy you. You literally can't even be a part of their club if they want to fucking wreck you, man. Yeah, what's the difference between a conspiracy theory and the truth? About a year. Honestly, Scott, in some cases, not even that. We're reaching the point where it goes from conspiracy theory to truth in fucking weeks.
In a couple
Eventually,
of weeks,
it'll be days. Pretty soon, it'll be hours, minutes, seconds. I think that's how we win, though. And that's honestly, that's the thing that it's become, is that they wouldn't feel the need to censor us, to push with the misinformation war and all this type of shit if we weren't being effective. I mean, think about it. Tons of people that haven't gotten the vaccine, people that would think you or I are crazy right now, right? Like almost anything that we talk about, they're like, oh, those guys are just crazy. They still ain't taking the fucking vaccine. Period.
Oh, a lot of them have, though.
Yeah, a lot of them have, and then haven't taken the second dose. Or they have taken both doses, and now they aren't taking anything else, no matter how much they try and fucking put it on them. I don't have to be down with the fact of those last two groups of people, but at the same time, they're waking up. No matter how far down the hole they're waking up, it is still worth trying to help these people, man. Yeah, what about X-Man, who's now, taking part in female weightlifting in the Olympics? Total joke. I mean, in Tokyo, they actually pushed them to change local laws in order for trans athletes and all this fucking shit to be okay. Because they could use the bathrooms that they want to rather than the bathrooms they legally should in the rest of Japan. Interesting, huh?
Yeah.
But of course, I mean, Japan wouldn't want to, not capitulate to every single demand of the International Olympic Council or whatever, because, all the money Japan's going to get from it, right? Oh, wait, that's right. They have no audience. They have no nothing. They have no advertising. They have jack shit, and they've spent $20 billion on it. Yeah, definitely seems like they should continue to capitulate to these people. I think there's a reason there's protests right now in Tokyo. I would love to see them step up. Just saying.
Yeah, talking of protests, I was just scanning through the BBC website, and they were basically saying how selfish these Australians are for protesting.
Scott, do you remember last year? Do you remember last year? I remember fervently, and I don't care if we're talking BBC, CNN, Fox News, fucking Australian news, like Sky News, whatever the fuck. That Sky News isn't the best example because they're a little bit less full of shit, but they're still full of shit. But talking about how the BLM protesters and all this stuff, I mean, come on, those guys are fine. Any other, like the pro-commie protesters wanting to like tear down statues and shit like that, those people are completely fine because they're not spreading stuff. They're out in the open, the air. It's all cool. Why would you think that they're spreading any disease? But the second you are no longer for a hardcore left-wing radical agenda, and you are like, no, man, get the fuck out of my life. I don't want to deal with this lockdown insanity anymore. In fact, I demand it ends.
There's a perfect example of that. It was on here earlier. I'll see if I can find it. Yeah, because they've got this one, the Sydney lockdown protesters condemned as selfish. And then they've got this one further down about the Paris protests. There we are. And the language is all sort of, these annoying people rising up against their own governments. But there was one on the BBC earlier. Let's see if I can find it. It was LG... Is it LG? I forget because they keep changing. LGTB, LGBT,
LGBTQIAPPNLSR plus minus negative hashtag underscore at symbol.
There was an article on here today, literally talking about the protests going on amongst the LGBT community and saying how great it was, basically. So it was the perfect example. Yeah.
They just started dropping the plus on that shit because these assholes have created so much contrived bullshit on top of the. No, actually, I'm not LGB or T. I'm Q. You're like, actually, no, I'm not Q. I'm A. I'm asexual. Like, what the fuck? Sure, thank God. At least you're not breeding, no matter what, right? We can at least thank God for that. Just what the fuck?
Yeah, I can't find it at the moment, unfortunately. Never mind. It is there somewhere. I was just having a scan through to see if there's anything else.
Oh no, they once
here
had
some
of my favorites are the newscasts that people like splice up, where it's the exact same newscaster, exact same channel, and they go from stuff from like July or August of last year, and they're like, oh, the necessariness of everything that they're doing, and those brave protesters and all this stuff, and then fast forward a couple months, and the anti-lockdown protesters are the most selfish people in the entire world, and it's just But again, who would expect consistency from government lapdogs, which we've established that is what the media are. There's government lapdog sensationalists, not just for the government, but also for whoever the highest bidder is, as far as whatever company. It's not just pharmaceutical companies. It's anybody that is willing to grease their palms enough. They'll throw their audience down a goddamn well and not care at all because, well, whatever, man, making my money, just doing the job.
Yeah, let's just have a look at this. Sydney lockdown protesters condemned as selfish, because my opinion would be, if you're not protesting that your entire country has been locked down initially from the death of one person this entire year, when probably the previous year it was a lot more than one.
So was it just Sydney or was it the whole of Australia? Because I'd seen stuff.
Most of Australia was locked down over that one death.
Okay, so that is what it is. Jesus Christ, man. I had somebody argue with me the other day and be like, no, man, that was just in Sydney. That wasn't all of Australia. No, so it was all of Australia that they locked down.
It was in most of Australia, I think. Yeah, I mean, because look, let's have a look here. So it was Sydney, New South Wales. It was more than one area of Australia. It was like several, and I think it turned into most of Australia. And if you're not protesting about that, and you think that that's a sensible thing to do, to lock your entire country down, millions of people, the consequences of doing that is for sure going to kill more people than one. Easily. She was 90 years old as well. Bear that in mind. She was 90 years old,
and the latest one was 80
conditions. I bet she was actually thinking, blimey, I think I'd actually like to go, guys, because the world's gone insane,
Well, I've heard people say that repeatedly, older people, that with all the shit going on right now, what world are they leaving that they want to actually my life is preserved so that I can live in a fucking prison camp that's like an open air prison for forever. Like, what does that sound good to anybody about? But we're doing it to help people by ruining all of your lives, ruining your livelihood. It's the reason government is not the solution to any problem. I know some people will say some problems, even if they throw some mundane shit like the roads or, defending our nation's borders or whatever. Fuck that. Private industry and individuals can do a better job at all of it than government can. Government has zero liability and all of the authority. That is not a fucking recipe for success, man. It shouldn't take a genius to figure this out. You could be like a 10-year-old by yourself, just alone thinking and be like, they have no accountability and they have all the authority. Don't worry. I'm sure the results are going to be great. I'm sure at no point will they screw up and then just continue to push things forward every single time. Never apologizing, never admitting guilt, never admitting they were wrong, because to admit any of that would imply that they're not omniscient, which is what they want to broadcast to the average moron out there until they no longer think of government as a collection of individuals ruling your life, but rather think of it as some sort of abstract idea that exists in the fucking ether somewhere, when in reality, it's not. It's just a bunch of people who, when they are gone, all of it falls apart.
It just seems these days, not just these days, I mean, it's been like it for a while, but it's just got particularly bad over the last year and a half. The media narrative is so absurd and so illogical. And unfortunately, that transfers to people. The general population opinion comes from media narrative.
Oh, yeah, big time.
So now you're just like listening to people talking and then arguing with you when you know 100%. It's not the fact that we're right. It's that it's just so obvious. It's so obvious the opinion that we hold is correct.
Well, Scott, we're
because
at this level where
your opinion.
we're at this level where you could agree with somebody wholeheartedly on the point that they have, and they'll still argue with you. Is it because we've been conditioned that everything has to be this uber divisive sort of stuff there, that nobody can come together? Nobody can come together for anything other than for bad. It's one of the things why whenever somebody has argued with me, because my thing is as a very, very pro-anarchisty type of person, but not like what the fuck we just saw. I'm talking about the fact of smaller governments, more divided governments, because people will be like, we want one strong government to take care of everything. I would rather have 1,000,000 governments, because all those individual little governments don't have all the power, man. They don't have all the power. In any moment, any of those small fucking forces can be toppled by a big enough group of people. When you centralize all this authority, you just ensure that it is going to be nothing but a bigger bunch of bloodshed in order to fix it. Because that is the only way that governments are ever fixed, that any problem is ever addressed, is through violence. I mean, the government has shown us that, haven't they? That every single problem that they have, the only solution is violence. And so God forbid anybody act in kind. It really feels like I'm living in a fucking Twilight Zone episode, man.
As Andre Van Ruin says, as there's no pill for being dumb. Yep. It does. Well, maybe there is. I don't know. We can find out. I was going to say something. What was I going to say? It'll come. Oh yeah, I was going to say that we're not stupid. Like if we do disagree with someone who's a truther, I'll quite happily say I disagree. Like for example, the other day, I went on to Brand New Tube, which is kind of like the Truther channel now, basically. And there was a woman who made a video, and she was a victim of vaccines. She'd taken 1 or 2 shots, and her life was ruined. Yeah. Her boyfriend had to tie her down because she was shaking too much, and she was saying made a video just to warn people and said, look, I was wrong, I shouldn't have done it. And underneath you had quite a few truthers saying, stupid bitch, you shouldn't have been such a dumb bitch.
Yeah,
you know.
that's
and for me I don't agree with that.
Yeah.
They're the twats. I will never side with people who make those kind of comments just because they're part of the truther community.
Yeah.
You know,
when we're trying to wake these people up, and then somebody wakes up and you're like, you idiot, how you do? I'm like, dude, I don't care if it's somebody that's literally at the last stage of this shit right before they die or something. Is it not worth it to have these people be aware of the truth? Like, what the fuck? And all these people, oh, fuck you for coming to my understanding. Like that sort of stuff just seems insane.
It does. Yeah, I don't think there's any need
April
for it.
April 2020. Go indoors, stay home, protect the NHS, save lives. April 2021. It's safer to be outside, but only with your mask on, only with your social distancing, only with.
There's been so much of that. There's been so much of the backtracking, and people just forget. You know, people forget that Anthony Fauci said there's no need to wear masks. They don't work. They don't work. It's obvious. You can't just stick a piece of cloth over your face. I mean, in the medical profession, they usually have a clean one, which they use for every surgical operation.
Yeah,
they never
touch
it.
Them from getting people sick. They do it to stop them
it's
getting fucking like blood or fluid from their mouth onto the person or vice versa.
Yeah.
That is literally all that's there for. If the doctor is sick, they're not allowed to go in and operate on people because that's not how fucking masks work. If this guy is sick and is coughing or some shit or sneezes or whatever, that mask stops nothing. And yet people seem to have this idea that
like my mask here that I've been wearing and someone pointed out was useless. It's like, well, you think just because your mask has got a few more holes and you can't see through it that it's doing any better. It's not. And people think, well, yeah, but a mask, if you sneeze, then you're not going to spray everyone. I can guarantee you, if you've got your mask on, you're just about to sneeze, your first thing you do will be to rip that thing off. You won't sneeze with your mask on. I promise.
Who wants snot all over their fucking face?
Yeah, you're not going to do it. So even that argument doesn't work.
Yeah, that's just, and also again, hot, wet air right next to your face. Hot, wet air over and over and over again. Almost as if we had a condition for this called steam lung, wet lung, steam worker's lung, fucking miner's lung, whatever you want to call it there. Anybody that works around boilers and all sorts of stuff where steam is produced have to deal with that. I can't quite imagine why. Hot, wet water. It's almost like we fucking known this as a human species for, I don't know, over 1,000 years, probably a lot longer than that. Let's be completely honest. And yet Poof! It's just imagined it. We just thought all that up. It must be because we're conspiracy theorists or something, Scott. Yeah, dude, it feels weird. The only bit of stuff I have left to talk about for news or anything like that, as we're wrapping up, is supposedly they found graphene oxide in some of these El Stabos, which I find very interesting because graphene oxide is used almost exclusively for electronics and is used for like what is it? Hydrophobia, I believe, to cause stuff to like not actually disperse, like when injected or something like that. So
they also found by analyzing people who've had the vaccine's blood under the microscope that it's looking really weird. It's breaking up and it's forming small blood clots, just very small ones, but they're going to get worse and there's going to be deaths. Some doctors think people are just going to die slowly over the next 2 to 3 years. We hope it's not true. We really do, because
Scott. Because they'll
blame us.
It was the anti-vaxxers and all you anti-science people that were promoting this the entire time. That's the thing that people need to realize. It doesn't matter what side of this or any fucking argument, debate, conspiracy idea that you're on. We're all in this shit together as far as us individually. We are all fucked. They are not going to just try and make it easy on any of us. So all the little bickery shit that people do with one another, that as long as we're truthers, quote unquote, and we're all against this agenda, I think we need to start fucking pushing, man. And yeah, exactly. 2 years max before people start dying like flies. Yeah, the different blood platelets a doctor did of people's blood who took the jab and then who didn't. Yeah, fucking A, man. I have a feeling they want a certain amount of us to not take it, though. You know what I mean? It really feels like there's a certain they want a certain amount of us to not take it. They want a certain amount of us to be isolated or away from the rest of society and shit like that. If you've ever read Brave New World, very much so like the savages in Brave New World that live on the reservations. I have a feeling places like the Midwest are going to become that. Fucking Idaho, Montana, South Dakota, North Dakota, that kind of shit. That is where they're pushing all of us towards, so that we are away from their mega society. And as much as people be like, but why, Seth? Don't they want to kill us all? Dude, they're poisoning the fucking human genome. I have a feeling they want a certain amount of us that are untainted, either if something so basic as for blood and organ harvesting, man. I know that sounds a little bit dark and grotesque, but we are at that point, are we not? I mean, who the fuck would be naive enough to think that we aren't ruled by people that may as well be the devil or fucking lizard people or whatever sort of ridiculous shit that people throw out there, because their actions are every bit as monstrous, as alien, as anything that you can think. I mean, people use synthetic versions of fetal cells to improve the flavor of your beverage. I mean, that's old news like a motherfucker. And we just accept this in society where people, we're using stem cells from aborted fetuses to, shoot into people to make sure that they're healthy and stuff like that. Dude, already we've reached a point where we're essentially the fucking Aztecs, cutting people's hearts out on the goddamn altar so that the sun doesn't go out. We got to, man. It's that same shit. But trust the experts, man. Trust the experts.
It's worth remembering that if this really does happen, and like, you're talking, say, billions dying, then what do you think is going to happen to society, everyone? They'll probably be running out of water pretty quickly. There'll be no one working in the water purification places. The logistics are all going to fall down. Society's going to break down. There'll be riots, murders,
I have a feeling
transportation won't be working.
Them pushing people out of the mega cities is specifically so that a lot of these billionaire asshole industrialists can buy it all up. And then when people move back in, they own all the mega housing and shit like that. So there is no more, you don't even have to worry about a commute. You only work about a 5-minute walk away from your fucking factory. So, I mean, go in line and then just stand in your workstation. It's that sort of a mentality. That's where we're getting. They want their worker drone class of people. But at the same time, like, I'm torn on a lot of this, because as we see, they're poisoning their own people. But at the same time, certain amount of them, they aren't, which of course there's people that I guarantee you the fucking shot that they took is a saline solution, right? There are other people that they didn't even give them a fucking shot. They pretended to, right? We watched that doing broadcasts and stuff where these assholes, I feel sorry for people who don't have woods to hide in. That is a fact. Always have that fault to fall back on, and every day lived free in defiance is an F you to the global dictators. That is a fact. Amen, man.
I would definitely start looking. I'm doing it myself now. Today I went out and looked over the wall and thought, if these guys came, if they sent medics around to do the mandated vaccines, and I saw them coming down the garden, like, could I? Where would I jump from? So I was looking over the fence. I would jump there. You got to start thinking about that kind of stuff seriously.
Just something so having an escape plan, and yeah, Goremonger 2's on it too, like in RoboCop. Or chaos destroys cities and big corporations buy up the entire city. Exactly. It's almost like they tell us the truth in these movies, but it's just put out just a little bit there. And it, again, demonic for sure. It feels like what would they call it? Hollywood, witchcraft, broadcasting, as it were. There, it's almost like they're weaving spells on people. But again,
there definitely does seem to be the dark.
Considering as a wizard, you have somebody like fucking Anthony Fauci or Bill Gates, who it means nothing in the big equation of things, right? To you or I or whatever the fuck, they're nothing. Yet the average person will just look at them and, oh my God, deference, and bow to them because they are the high priests of the religion. They really are. And
the Georgia Guidestones, I do wonder. It's a bit odd because they must have cost quite a lot to produce that. It's a bit too expensive, I think, as just a kind of practical joke. I'm just wondering whether that was something that these guys, from the Economic Forum. Yeah, I think it's them. 500 million is what they want to bring it down to. And so if that's the case, we're going to be seeing billions dying.
Well, and think with the obsession, when you think about it logically, their obsession with death is completely ridiculous because they're the ones that made this entire system unsustainable. They are literally the ones who did this with poison chemicals, with shit agriculture programs, with shit conservation when it comes to the forests, anything like that, any resource, any mineral you can think of, any fucking animal species that they've pushed to extinction and beyond, or endangerment and beyond into extinction. People, that's them. That's them. And then they have the balls to look at you and I and go, well, there's too fucking many of you guys. We're just going to have to start cutting back. But there reaches a point when you realize, where does it stop? Why does 500 million? Why is that the appropriate amount? Because even with 500 million, if they're living exactly as they live now, there's still a fucking plague to everything that they do. And so why would 500 million be okay? Why would 500,000 be okay? Why would 5 be okay? Because if they're living the way these assholes have shown they are interested in living, there is no sustainability in that. I will say they do seem to have made themselves a lot of infrastructure to the point that they are willing to be okay with sacrificing a certain amount of their own.
One thing that's annoyed me, one of many things that annoyed me really recently was I keep hearing people, even in the truther community, saying, we're to blame. We're all to blame. You're to blame. You allowed this to happen. You allowed that to happen. You didn't rise up. You allowed all these abortions to happen, or you allowed you voted these people. And it's like, no, I didn't do any of that. So I really resent it. No, I didn't allow any of that to happen. It is the masses generally, and we don't have control over the masses.
Yeah.
So I don't take responsibility to any of that kind of crap,
Yeah, someone made a devil's advocate argument for the Guidestones and said it was a 500 IQ plan of someone cynical who thought civilizations will fall back into a stone age and whoever survives could get a structure. And it's like, yeah, okay. Because it's not like we're controlled by people that are fucking into this just balls deep of the Malthusian idea of killing people. It's not like they've been doing this since the days of the Romans, at least as far as we know, if not longer than that. I mean, we're talking about a brotherhood of people, and I don't like to just give them more credit than they deserve because these are people that, of course, thrive on that kind of shit and the mythos around them and the mysticism around them, because then it makes people afraid to actually do something about them when in reality, they're people just like you and I. They can be fucking, they bleed. And I believe we all know the Arnold Schwarzenegger quote from Predator about things that bleed, right? So I would not like to see. You don't know that quote, Scott? It's if it bleeds, we can kill it. So just to put that out there for people.
Did you say from Terminator?
Predator.
Oh, no. I have watched that a few times, but it's been a while,
Truly a good 1980s action romp, right?
It's a great film.
Good time. But that's where we're at, man, is people that want to have this mysticism, this idea that these people are somehow above or beyond us. But I will say that this same pattern appears to have been going on throughout a lot of history. Granted, history is controlled by these guys. I have no idea if this is all completely untampered with. But as far as even looking at archaeological evidence and trying to extrapolate my own opinions on all of this, it definitely feels like this has happened before, and that these guys are trying to create their infrastructure in order to hold themselves up during all this chaos. It's Alex Jones, again, hate the guy, but I'll still fucking give him credit for the message of, what do they call it? Techno-feudalism, essentially. That is the idea with all these people, is where a bunch of rich billionaire, or in this case, trillionaire, quadrillionaire, whatever type people will own huge swaths of city and countryside and stuff, and that everybody that lives there is essentially their slave. Sorry, I got a dog coughing over here.
I thought I heard something, yeah. We'll probably wind down now. Let's just see what Goremonger says. Just saying, it's food for thought when you take in history as false. Yeah, I do always bear in mind everything I read. I always keep one sort of part, one brain cell considering the idea that it could all just be nonsense. And that goes with history as well. Possibility of other civilizations who got to our point. They were talking a lot about that fossilized computer in the news the other day.
Yeah,
got destroyed.
He's totally on point here of the destroyed civilizations and stuff. When we're looking at this, of the feeling that this has happened before, that these are peoples that I don't want to say too big too soon, because it has nothing to do with the size of the system or any of that stuff. Kieran is also on point there with that mass Stockholm syndrome. Good luck, everyone. But wrapping it up here before we get into any other little rabbit holes there or whatnot, I want to thank everybody for joining us for tonight or this afternoon, wherever it is you're listening to, whenever it is you're listening. I want to thank you for joining us. Thank you, everybody that's in the chat. Goremonger 2, Kieran, Andre, James Cole, what is it? 61*19, anybody. Snake Jones 19, and so on and so forth. We have anybody else? There's no hot retarded chicks here, Scott. Jesus, what have we done? We've lost the hot retarded chicks.
Hot retarded chick will be listening to the recording probably. Please come back next time. We miss you. And and I would like to say that it's probably actually a good thing that we don't have like 1 million listeners, because we'd probably get even more videos banned. I did get another strike the other day.
I'm sorry,
on one I shared, which was a qualified doctor talking about the vaccines. He's like top of his profession. That got banned and a strike. Kieran says, thanks, chaps. Take it easy. That's probably our message to you guys as well. Take it easy. Keep healthy. Try to form communities. The shit's going to hit the fan soon, but we're going to be ready, I hope. Resident Evil, Real Age, they want a world of their own, but want a post-human sub-race. Yeah, they want to plug us in to the Matrix. Thank you, guys. Yeah, good to see you, Drew. You listened back to the recording. I did want to say, please try and recommend us to your friends. Share the video.
Especially truthers, man. Making a community, dude. Make it a community. You can meet people here. You can talk to people here, share ideas and stuff like that. I think that's one of the big things that we need to do. I mean, if we don't actually keep reaching people and pushing through, then we're going to have a hell of a time finding it out later without a fucking internet at all, man.
So one thing, if anyone listening has got some contacts, and say maybe you know someone who's got like a YouTube channel or a BitChute channel that's got like a couple of million subscribers, whether they would share one of our videos every now and again. I used to have somebody who did that, so we used to get more hits, but then that kind of died down because YouTube started kicking everyone off, so we don't get as many listeners now. So yeah, if you can share it to people who've got a lot of subscribers, or if anyone listening knows platforms, please help us out in that way. We're not like trying to get like millions of viewers, but I think it would be good to get, tens of thousands anyway. And if everyone's going to die over the next 6 months, then we're going to get less views. So please share it now.
Couple less there.
Could be a few less. Thank you, guys. As Drew says, see you all next time. Thanks for listening. Remember to catch us at www.truthsentinel.co.uk if we do disappear, which is possible. I think they're going to start kicking lots of people off soon. I mean, we've spoken about stuff today which is not acceptable on social media
Jeff
anymore.
C from Canada, but he died last year. Yeah, that's too bad.
Sad to hear.
Sorry, man.
I've been to my first funeral in the last week, so I'm already sort of kind of noticing things are changing. I don't know how the person who died, I went to their funeral. I didn't even know them properly, but I think things could be happening already. But anyway, we'll be back in 2 to 4 weeks. We'll let you know. Have you thought about being a guest on Caravan to Midnight? Hate to say it, but I'm not sure John B. Wells actually likes me that much, because when we first started up, he actually specifically wrote a message about me and said something about my British accent and insulted me because I posted one of his videos to help him out at the beginning. That was actually how Truth Sentinel started.
Yeah.
I posted one of John B. Wells's videos. Because I quite like listening to him.
Yeah.
And that's what I did first of all. That's and I called my channel something else. And then I got some subscribers. Then he slagged me off and put a strike on my channel. So we kind of I doubt very much will he want to interview me.
I can't believe he talked shit about your accent. What an asshole. Jeez.
What an asshole, yeah.
Yeah.
I'll try and do a fake American accent next time. Maybe I'll work on it.
You can do it, Scott. Come on.
Just get rid of the accent. Just pretend like you're from California. It's fine. You know. It's easy.
Yeah, man. I speak like Biden here. Hey, man.
Come on, man. Come
on, man.
Yeah. You got it. You got it.
Anyway, take it easy, everyone. Thanks very much. See you later.
Peace, guys.
Bye-bye.